Yolanda McCoy, 6th District. At this time, I will call the roll for those members of the committee first. Vice Chair, Councilman Oliver.
Present.
Councilwoman Darby.
Present.
Councilman Johnson.
Here.
Councilman Spadola.
Present.
Councilman Mills. Councilman Mills. I thought we saw him. And President Congo. Okay.
Here.
All right, thank you. Okay, as a friendly reminder, only the members of the committee will be making motions and seconding. So today on our Public Safety Committee meeting, the agenda, we actually have quite a few things. What we like to do is we actually want to begin with a presentation from the Newcastle County Police Accountability Board. Is there anyone here on our virtual to speak to this matter?
Yes, good evening. I'm here.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Could you
Thank
please
you.
state your name?
Sure. My name is Kaylin Richards. I am the Executive Assistant to the Newcastle County Police Accountability Board.
Thank you. And if you'd like to get started?
Will do. I believe someone is going to pull up the presentation, or I'm happy to share my screen.
No, it looks like someone is actually taking care of that. Thank you.
All right. You
All
guys
right.
are on it. Thank you. All right, so let's get started. Again, my name is Kaylin Richards. I'm the Executive Assistant to the Newcastle County Police Accountability Board. My job is to essentially handle all administrative matters with the board, as well as serving as a liaison between the board, Newcastle County PD, and the Newcastle County Executive Office. Next slide. So just really quickly, I'm going to provide an overview of what we do, and I'll leave plenty of time at the end for questions. So the Newcastle County Police Accountability Board was created by County Ordinance 23-148 in the fall of late last year. Our goals and functions are to conduct community outreach, review and provide recommendations, offer constructive criticism to improve police-community relations, review and analyze data that's available via Delaware law, and lastly, provide recommendations on future police reform. Next slide.
Could you speak up, please? I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. How's this? Is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So the composition of the board is very similar to, I believe, what you all have laid out in your ordinance. Our board includes 11 voting members and 2 non-voting members who are also representatives from Newcastle County Police Department. 8 of our voting members are recommended by outside organizations, as listed below. I'm not going to go through everything, but as you all can see, what is that, 8 of the board members are recommended by outside organizations, and the public also recommended the at-large members as well. But our composition makes sure that the board is diverse in knowledge, which is super helpful when they're crafting their recommendations. So we have 2 members from the impacted community on our board, 2 members from civil rights organizations, we have a nominee from a faith-based organization. Education organizations are allowed to submit 1 recommendation. The same thing for mental health organizations and victim rights organizations. We also have 2 staff members, myself, the executive assistant, and we have an attorney. Next slide.
I'm sorry, ma'am. If you wouldn't mind, before you go to the next slide, the 3 at-large members, and who would be doing those nominations?
The community was able to nominate the at-large members as well.
Okay.
And the county executive made the final decision.
Okay, thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. That's a good question. In this slide, I just really want to highlight the work of the National Association of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, also known as NACOL, and that's what I will be referring to it as, because that's a mouthful. So NACOL has 8 keys to effective police oversight. The first one is independence, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how the Newcastle County Police Accountability Board meets each of these keys. So the board is essentially independent from the police department. We are housed under the executive office, which is really helpful to ensure that the board is able to make unbiased recommendations. So it could be a little difficult to make recommendations or critique an agency that may like post your budget or you have to report to. Like that could be very difficult. And so I think there should be a layer of separation there. Secondly, adequate funding. Our board was granted $40,000 for our first year of training and other needs as well. Access to information. It's really, really important that your board has access to policies, procedures, data, anything that the police department can provide them with. That is going to be really, really important to ensure that their recommendations are informed. So Newcastle County PD makes their policies available online. So our board is able to just, quickly do a search and pull up a policy and, ask questions or apply it to some things that they're seeing out in the streets. Rapport, that's pretty self-explanatory. We have a really good rapport with Newcastle County PD. It's growing every day. It's also important to have a rapport with the community. So one of the things that I learned is that is do as much outreach before you hold a meeting in someone's community, because they tend to feel some type of way if you come to their community without notifying them. And so we learned that the hard way, and we have since rebuilt that relationship with that community, and it's going really well. Next, ample authority. Unfortunately, Delaware law doesn't permit for the boards to have a lot of authority. However, we ensure that the voting power remains in the hands of the public on the board, and so that's like really important to ensuring that their voices are heard. Next is the ability to review policies, procedures. I kind of touched on that.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. I mean, she say next. What are we talking about? Section what?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, the next number. Please don't go to the next slide, sorry. So the next one is the community support and outreach. Again, it's important that you outreach the community before you hold meetings in their neighborhoods. Also, ensuring that you try to hold meetings in different parts of the city or of the jurisdiction. So we have held meetings in Bear, Newark, Newcastle, and we try to hold a meeting at a different location every month. Sometimes that's not always possible because of space, so we tend to go back to the Route 9 library, but we do hold meetings at all different locations throughout the county to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to engage with the board and feel heard. The last thing is transparency. Our board tries to remain as transparent as possible, so we are required to publish an annual report by April 1st of every year. That includes recommendations, the data that they've collected, any other important updates that they have for the community to ensure transparency. Next slide.
Thank you. Before you actually go to the next slide, I had one question about community support and the the rapport with the communities. I noticed that you gave us listing of cities. Were there any type of communities actually within these cities that were more of a priority than others?
Yes, so we really focused heavily on the Rose Hill Community Center and the communities along the Route 9 corridor. We also focused on the communities out in along the Route 40 corridor, and we did that because I don't know if you all seen, but there were two incidents that happened over the summer of this year, and the videos went viral. And one video was from an incident along the Route 9 corridor, so it was really important that we went to that community in July and, heard their voices, heard their complaints and things like that. And that meeting lasted for about 3.5 hours. Wow. We only ended the meeting because the library was going to kick us out. And then the second community that we focused on is that Route 9 corridor or the Route 40 corridor. So the incident that happened at the Royal Farms along Route 40 led us to hold a Know Your Rights training at Leisure Elementary School, probably within like a mile from the Royal Farms incident.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Any more questions before I move forward?
Anyone? Nope. I think you may proceed.
All right. So just really quickly, some pluses and deltas, things that are working and things that we are going to look to change in the future. Next slide. So here's what's working. The community referral process for board members has been really helpful in building trust with the community. We've received, a few questions like, where are you guys from, right? Who chose you? How did you all get selected? And it's really helpful to be able to like point to specific organizations and people and leaders in the community and say, hey, well, this person was referred by this group or this person. And so that's been really helpful. Quarterly public forums. We've had 2 public forums so far, and I found those to be the most helpful because folks come to our meetings and they want to talk. They have a lot to say and share, and it's really important that they get those things off their chest. So the public forums are the perfect opportunity for them to do that. And it also helps ensure that the board is able to get board business done. When folks have a lot to say, we can either say, hey, like we have a public forum coming up, or, maybe there's another opportunity for them to speak. But that's really important. We have 4 board committees. That's helpful in ensuring that the board can get work done. So, and also honing in on. We have a community outreach committee, an executive committee, and a bylaws committee. And so I sent you all our bylaws. Feel free to look them over, reach out with any questions. But just really quickly, the executive committee is comprised of our chair, vice chair, staff members, and the 2 law enforcement representatives from Newcastle County PD. And that committee is like super helpful in ensuring that Newcastle County PD is able to share their thoughts, concerns, recommendations with the chair, vice chair, and staff before or after board meetings. Next, we have a YouTube channel. It ensures the most transparency, so folks are able to go back and watch our meetings at a later date. And lastly, we have a membership with the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, aka NACOL. That membership is an annual membership, and it allows us to connect with other civilian oversight practitioners throughout the country. The membership is only $500. I promise they're not paying me to say this, but it has been so helpful. We are able to, ask questions about best practices, work through problems and things like that. We training to the board, as well as 10 hours of technical assistance. So I have a list of trainings that they'll be receiving. I can also send that to you all. But the technical assistance piece is what really caught my eye, because that means that we can call expert opinion on. So that is.
Yeah, I just want to make sure where you've been kind of going in and out a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
No,
Can you
not
hear
a
me
lot,
now?
just a bit, missing a couple words here and there.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
I can.
I gotta lean in to the camera a little bit.
Okay.
So sorry. All right, next slide. So here are some challenges that we've been experiencing. The community members who attend our meetings, they have not been pleased about the state law and the amount of public records, transparency, but just from like a administrative perspective, it makes it very hard for our board to have conversations with Newcastle County PD when critical incidents occur. So let's use the Route 9 incident that happened in July with the young boy. I think the community was Rosegate. I don't know if you all remember that, but Newcastle County PD was very limited to what they can share when that incident occurred, and the board had a lot of questions. But because the state law prohibits them from sharing information regarding an ongoing police investigation, and there's some other confidentiality issues there, they weren't able to have an open and honest conversation about what we all saw. And so that, I think if the state law allowed for greater transparency and more sharing of police records, then we could have more robust conversations. That leads me to my next point, processing civilian feedback. So we've ran into a couple issues with processing civilian feedback. Now, don't get me wrong, I think civilian feedback is amazing. It's absolutely necessary and required for the board to make informed recommendations. However, the county law department did raise some concerns with civilian feedback that may include an accusation of police misconduct and include an officer's name. So there are some issues with common law that may require the board to redact an officer's name. And with that being said, again, Newcastle County PD is limited to what they can share because of the state law. So if we get an email from a civilian alleging police misconduct, there's not much that they can share about it, especially if there's an investigation. However, they are able to look into it and investigate it on their end, which they have done, but they can't share a lot of that information with the board. Next is time constraints. Our board they're hard workers. They're on the board for a reason. They're very engaged in their communities, and it's a lot of time that goes into this work. And so I'm just gonna flag that for you guys, that you may have like all these goals and things like that you want to get done. However, just be mindful that board members have full-time jobs, sometimes part-time jobs too, families. Some of our board members have all those things, and they're also in school. And so it's a lot. And lastly, budget. Now, although I said we were awarded, we were given $40,000 for this fiscal year, we're going to need to maintain some of the things that we've started this year. So things like our NACOL membership, like we're going to have to have a reoccurring budget to ensure that we can continue to fund our public forums and things of that nature. The board also wants things like T-shirts, which I think is really important to ensure that you guys are seen and visible within the community. Next slide. Just a few community events that we've had, and I just listed these out to show you all that we're having a variety of events, and we've done them all in different locations. So we've had a roundtable discussion at the Rose Hill Community Center in June of 2024. We had a Know Your Rights training in August of 2024. We partnered with the Office of Defense Services, and they went over a few rights that we have when we're being arrested or interrogated by police. And that was really eye-opening because it just went to show like how many of us are like unfamiliar with our rights and how nuanced it is as well. Lastly, we have a community police basketball game happening on December 8th at the Chase Field House. We have a flyer and a link. I will share that with you all as well. And the last one is like really important to me, although it just seems like, you know, it just seems like fun, but that's why it's important. Because although we have like these responsibilities and goals, it's important that we meet those, but it's also important that we have fun at the same time, that we're acknowledging that we're all human and we can come together and have a good time and have difficult conversations. Next slide. Any questions?
Okay. All right.
Feel free to, just come off mute, or you can email me or give me a call.
All right. Well, first, before I get to the questions, I just want to make certain that I acknowledge that a few council members have joined us. Councilmember Mills, Councilmember Bracy, and Councilmember Fields. So, Ms. Richards, there is one thing I would like for you to share with us. Perhaps you'll send that information through email. We would like to know who the members are of the Newcastle County Police Accountability Board. Okay? All right, thank you.
Absolutely. It's on our website, actually, and I'll send you all the information, but that's how we try to remain as transparent as possible. Folks can go on our website and you can read every board member's bio.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Ms. Spadola actually had a question.
Thank you for being with us tonight, Ms. Richards. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I'm curious if you can share, from your perspective, any big wins that the Accountability Board has had in terms of changes that you've gotten implemented, or any positive outcomes that you can share.
Yeah, so the board is currently going through their training with the Newcastle County Police Accountability, with the Newcastle County Police Department, sorry. And so we haven't had a chance to propose recommendations just yet. However, here's how we've been getting small wins in the meantime. So when the Royal Farms incident happened along Route 40, we seen the video and we reached out to Director Bond and asked, hey, can we work on a de-escalation policy together? We looked on your website and we seen that you guys don't have a comprehensive de-escalation policy. Can that be something that we work on? And they said yes, within minutes. And so that's how we got a small win there. We also was able to, we're currently working with the Newcastle County Police Department on revising their shooting at moving vehicle policy. And that was thanks to the leadership of County Executive Matt Meyer, who actually asked the board at their first meeting to review Newcastle County PD's shooting at moving vehicle policy. And so his leadership was really essential into getting both parties at the table and agreeing that maybe a change does need to happen here. And the board is the perfect folks to, help them do that.
Okay. Did you have anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else had any questions? Councilman Oliver?
Yes, Madam Chair. Kaylin, how are you doing this evening?
Good, how are you?
Okay, I have a question for you. For the Accountability Board, can you think of ways that the board can change to make it more responsive to police needs or to the community needs?
Yes. So just hindsight is 2020, and here are some things that I would personally do different. I would have, in terms of meeting police needs, I think the sooner you can get the board in front of the police department, the better, so that they can meet each other, have conversations and discussions. And so the police are able to share, their thoughts and their needs. That's something that the board is hoping to do. But again, if it was up to me, I would have done it a lot sooner. Meeting community needs, I think making sure that you are not only just, engaging with the community at meetings, but maybe you're, canvassing and connecting them to like community resources and things like that. That's really important.
Madam Chair?
Yes, you may follow.
Thank you. How long has the board been in effect?
The board has been meeting since April of this year, so we're going on about 8 months.
Madam Chair?
You may follow.
So you haven't met with any, the committee has not met with any of the board members as of yet?
I'm sorry, which committee are you referring to?
I'm talking about your board. You said that y'all been meeting for 8 months, and I said, as far as the police, you said you would love to, your committee would like to get in front of the police. And I'm asking you, you haven't met with that any of the police officers as of yet?
Well, they're going through training with different police officers, and so they're meeting them through that way. We're also having a community event with police within a couple weeks, and so that's how they've been engaging so far. They've also been encouraged to go on ride-alongs so that they can have conversations with police officers, but they haven't had, again, it's a time thing. On top of meetings and quarterly public forums and committee meetings. It's some things
Okay.
just kind of
Right.
don't happen as quickly as I would like them to.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
But they have met police officers.
Yes, Ms.
Okay.
Richards has one more question.
Thank you. So that's my question. That's a yes or no answer. Have some of your members met with the police officer? The only reason I'm asking is because you said that, your committee plans on meeting with the officers. So I'm asking you, have any of y'all met with the officers as of yet? As of 8
Yes.
months? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. What I was referring to was a more like structured, like sit down, everyone, all hands on deck, invite all the board and all the police officers. But like I said, time is an issue here. We have committee meetings, standing meetings, and so some things just don't happen as quickly as we like them to.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, may I follow up?
Ma'am?
Okay, I'm just a straight shooter. That's yes or no. 4 or 3 of y'all met with them. I'm only following up from what she said, that they haven't had a chance. And we don't have to fluff it, and I get it, that maybe y'all haven't had time. And it's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that's what I said. I didn't mean to fluff anything. I was just saying, I just wasn't sure if you were implying that like the board didn't meet with any officers. And that's not the case here.
Ms. Richards, so I think that the vice chair and I actually heard something a little differently. No, I did hear that they've met, but they don't have anything. They have not had a planned, structured meeting as if they are part of a training for the officers, like that they are set aside time for maybe cut it into different groups. It's just that they are basically engaged in other activities. They've made introductions, but it's not part of their training as of yet. Is that what I'm hearing, Ms. Richards?
Yeah. So what I was saying was, if I could go back and do things differently, then we would have maybe a coffee with a cop type of event. I recommend you all do that a lot sooner than later.
Okay, all right.
That's what we do in Wilmington. Thank you.
All right. All right,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you. Did anyone else have any other questions? Okay, Councilman Spadola.
Thank you. And I'm asking you this, Ms. Richards, from our perspective. Do you report to the board or do you report to the county executive?
Oh, that's a good
Like
question.
who hired you and like who's doing your annual review and all that?
So I report to the county executive for the most part. The executive office appointed me to this position.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. So, Ms. Richards, if you did you have anything else that you wanted to share with us? Because I don't know whether or not any of my colleagues had any other questions, and we don't seem to have anyone in the public except Chief. We do have someone online that would like. Okay, great. I said, can we please give that person access so that they can share their question, and if they can introduce themselves. Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. My name's Christina Kelly. I do kind of have a question just about like the makeup of this board, just in Wilmington. So like I know, Kaylin, I know that there's a long process set out for the makeup of the board on the county level. Can you kind of go over that just so that we have like a full understanding of how the county did it? Because just the makeup of the board in the ordinance proposed seems a little off.
Are you referring to the Wilmington's ordinance or the county's ordinance?
Yeah, just the county did it very well, put together the board very well, and it's just there's some discrepancies between the county ordinance and the Wilmington ordinance. So just wondering if you could kind of
Ms. Kelly.
just speak to how the county's board was made up.
Okay, Ms. Kelly, actually, we are giving a presentation for Newcastle County. We do have the ordinance on the agenda, and if you'd like to speak to that, once we get to that portion, that'll be fine. That way you can actually speak with the sponsor.
So, Madam Chair, would you like me to respond to the question?
Well, no, it seems as though Ms. Kelly would like for you to respond to a piece of legislation that's actually part of the city of Wilmington, it's not Newcastle County.
Well, I think what I heard was that she wanted me to speak to the composition of the Newcastle County Police Accountability Board and how the board members were selected.
That's not what I heard.
Madam Chair.
I heard what you said. I heard that too. So
Ma'am, just a moment. Yeah, no, so I just wanted to know whether or not Ms. Kelly is still on the line, because that was the question that I had posed to her, whether or not it was about the City of Wilmington's ordinance that she wanted to get Ms. Richards to give information to, or whether or not it was Newcastle County's. That was the question.
No, I'm sorry, I got remuted, so I'm sorry that I
okay.
wasn't able to answer.
Okay.
No, so Kaylin's understanding of my question was correct. I just wanted to hear again how the county's board was put together, just for my own reference in viewing the city's ordinance,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
All right, thank you. Ms. Richards, please, you can answer that question, please.
Thank you. The executive office reached out to a number of advocates, police reform advocates, social justice organizations, and asked for recommendations from the following, I guess, groups of folks. So, what is that? Sorry, I'm going through my PowerPoint right here. So again, we asked for 2 members of the community that have been impacted by the criminal legal system, civil rights organizations to provide 2 names, faith-based organizations submitted a nomination for 1 religious leader, education organizations submitted a nomination for 1 member of their community, and the same thing for mental health organizations and victim rights organizations. And so although we've only asked for 11 recommendations, the county received like 100 applications for folks who are interested in being on the board. And someone from the executive office interviewed board members or prospective board members, and the folks who they thought was a good fit were forwarded to the county executive for approval. But the names came from the community.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. It seems Councilmember Fields has a question.
Good evening. Thank you, Committee Chair. I did have a question, but the young lady spoke to it. So I'm going to wait till the ordinance come up so I can speak to the difference between Newcastle County and the City of Wilmington. But thank you, Katrina, for what is it?
I'm not sure if you're trying to say
Caitlin.
Caitlin or Christina.
Caitlin, I'm sorry.
You combined
Caitlin, yeah, I'm
the two.
sorry. Caitlin, my
Caitlin.
apologies. Thank you for that explanation, Caitlin. And I'll wait for the ordinance to be presented. Thank you.
Okay,
Right.
but I guess, Christina, did I answer your question? I hope I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I appreciate you. Thank you very much, Kaylin.
Thank you. Were there anyone else on virtual who had a question? Anyone from the public? Okay. All right. So
Thank you, Madam Chair.
just one moment. All right, one more question from Councilwoman Oliver.
Absolutely.
Is there a pattern of issues being raised by the community, and what is the pattern?
That's a really good question. So one of the issues that we've been hearing is that folks are concerned about not seeing police in their community, and not necessarily there like to, enforce law, but there to be like community police officers. So just walk the streets and things like that. It was really helpful to have that conversation in front of Newcastle County PD, because they were able to provide reasons as to why, that officer may not be within that community anymore. Like one of the things we heard was the officer was deployed because he was in the Army. And so he was no longer, even working with Newcastle County PD. And the community never knew that. And so they were wondering what happened to this officer. We miss him. Some of the other things that we hear are more related to the incidents that occurred in July. So the community want us to focus on things like de-escalation, and also, honestly, more accountability for officers at the state level, which the board is also reviewing in terms of like making recommendations.
Thank you so much. You answered my question. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much, Ms. Richards. I do appreciate the presentation that you gave us. And if you like, I hope that you're able to stay on so that you can listen to more questions that we have about our upcoming ordinance.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for the time to share. My information is in the PowerPoint presentation, so please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. I also recommend, maybe reaching out to the law department at the county if you all have any legal questions, which I am not authorized to answer, but there are going to be a lot of legal questions that come up when you're formulating the board and even board processes. So I encourage that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so we would like to move forward on the agenda. I have Ordinance 24-063, which is an ordinance to amend Chapter 2 of the City Code to convert the Citizens Complaint Review Board into the Wilmington Community Police Accountability Board. Now, the sponsor is Councilman Johnson, but Councilwoman Oliver is going to be speaking to that matter.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I think you explained it all. This ordinance is to amend Chapter 2 of the City Code to convert the Citizens Complaint Review Board into Wilmington's Community Police Accountability Board. And I think we have some to speak on this. The ordinance will require the budget amendment to pay for a new liaison position, as well as funding a board member meeting the attendance.
Okay, thank you. Did you want, I see Councilman Johnson is still on the line.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson, did you have more to add to
Yes.
your ordinance?
Thank you.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Councilmember Oliver. Apologize for not being there in person tonight. This is a long time coming. I appreciate the number one, the work of our staff, namely our policy director Kendra, and working with us, and also our policy fellows, and also Councilmember Darby. This is essentially converting the CCRB, which is the Citizens Oversight Board, which Wilmington actually passed in the fall of 2020. And then at that point, we did spur the state and also the county to take action. You know, we were the first state to do this. And so in the subsequent years, there was a lot of momentum in Dover for police reform. There are a lot of changes. Namely, we had the police accountability boards, and what you just heard Ms. Richards talk about. So with the new state law, as a local government, we had to become in compliance with the new state law. So what that meant is we have to convert it to convert our citizen oversight board to this accountability board. And the accountability board essentially is mirrored off of the county. So it will be to review policies and practices, also work with the community. We also do have a funding mechanism, I believe. Right now we have a budget at $25,000 to be reviewed, obviously the upcoming budget. season. And namely, all board members will have training, and also our board members will be paid. They will be paid $100 per meeting. We felt like, I'm not sure what the county does, but for us, we felt like we need to incentivize our board members to be engaged. And so to have them as paid board members, I believe we will be able to get the most quality board members out there. So that's pretty much the long and short of it. It's almost exactly mirrors the county. It's minimum of 7 members. They are technically appointed by the mayor with the advice and consent of council. We have the similar community groups, faith-based groups, social justice groups. They all will be giving recommendations to the administration. So this is, again, a work in progress. Certainly there's ways we can improve on this once it gets started, but this, I believe, will give finally Wilmingtonians a seat at the table. So with that, I don't know if my colleague, Councilmember Darby, has something to add in as well, as she worked on this as well.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Chair. Councilman Darby?
Hello, yes, thank you, Councilmember Johnson. So I have been working with Councilmember Johnson and a few community members on getting feedback. So I think that's really key and important for like any piece of legislation. So reaching out to the ACLU and another contact of mine who is looking at police accountability throughout the state. And I also want to say that I'm welcome and interested always in hearing from community people on any other ideas or thoughts or feedback to improve the legislation, to improve our accountability board, because I want it to fit for Wilmington. I want it to make sense, and willing to make those feedbacks, adjustments. But for right now, with the community partners we have worked with, this is what we did come up with. We're open to any feedback. I also want to say that I'm really happy to see like this piece of legislation and updating it, because a while ago there was an introduction to the Jeremy McDowell police reform packet, and one of the pillars was strengthening the police accountability board, the civilian review board it was called at the time. And I feel like we're making a lot of progress. And next year with the new council that we'll have, I'm hoping that we can do more around police reform and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. Did any of my colleagues have any questions about the ordinance? Okay, Councilman Spadola?
Thank you. I'm looking at the fiscal impact. It says it will require a budget amendment. So if I'm understanding correctly, we would have to pass this ordinance, and then we will have a separate budget amendment to vote on later. I'm curious, please confirm if that's correct, and any thoughts on what that number would look like.
Chairwoman McCoy, may I answer?
Yes, you may, Councilman Johnson.
So right now, if you recall, the past 2 budget cycles, we've had actually earmarked money for training, which is NACOL, which is a group that advises the county. We've had approximately $25,000 earmarked. But there will need to be additional funds for not only a full-time position or 1.5. I guess we're going to have a new position for the executive director, plus again the pay for the board members as well. So there will need to be a slight budget amendment. We're still working on crunching those numbers. It'll probably be under 75,000, so it's not going to be a tremendous push, but it will need to be adjusted from the earmarked training budget that we already had in council's budget.
Okay, thank you. Did you have any other questions? Okay. Okay, Councilman Oliver?
Yes, Councilman Johnson, I think this is a great piece of legislation, but I did think that you knew the fiscal impact, so we don't know the fiscal impact roundabout or anything. I thought we had checked into that.
Chairwoman, if I may, again, working with our CFO, Ms. Bass Knight, I don't know if she's on the line. We need to be able to advertise the position and create that position, and it actually will have to go through admin board. So we're still working on that. Honestly, the first fiscal year, we may do it as a consultant and not actually have them be a city employee. So we're still going through that. But again, we don't believe it'll be tremendously that much more. It'll be, like I said, probably under 100,000. So we're working on that.
All right, thank you, Councilman Johnson. Is Ms. Bass Knight, is she available to speak?
Yes, I am on. Thank you, Madam Chair. And to echo what Councilman Johnson just mentioned, the cost would be around 100,000. This legislation becomes effective January 2025. It will require a budget amendment to add a new position. And also we would have to add money for the board members. The only item that is in our current budget now is money for training. So to answer the question, the fiscal impact is going to be approximately 100,000.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Bass Knight. Was there any other questions? All right, Councilman Spadola.
Yeah, more of a comment. I would be curious if, and I was glad to hear that it looked like, a consultant might be brought on at first, just because if we could avoid adding a full-time employee with, benefits on top of that, just to save some dollars, that would be great. At least let the consultant see, is it really a full-time position that's needed? Could it be part-time? I think a consultant might be a better way to go. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, all right, Ms. Bass Knight.
Yeah, and Madam Chair and Councilman Spadola, thank you for saying that. Also, I just want to share with the committee is that the legislation states a full-time position. Yes, it will be cheaper if you were to use a consultant or if you were to do part-time.
Follow.
Okay, yes, you may.
So to Councilmember Johnson, if the legislation specifically states a full-time position, how would you square that with hiring a consultant, like you said? Which I'm fine with, but it's inconsistent with the legislation.
Councilman Johnson?
Yes, I think it may take some maneuvering with our budget. I know once the position is created, similar to other positions in administration, again, Ms. Bass Knight may be able to correct me, but I believe once the position is actually created in the budget, we could probably delay funding that position actually as a FTE, or filling it and really do it through a consultancy role. So again, Ms. Bass Knight will let us know how we can maneuver, but I know on the administration side, say Public Works, for example, that can happen. So, we can do some kind of moving around and see what we can do, as long as we can get a person in a position as soon as possible.
All right, thank you. Councilman Oliver.
Yes, I would like to be added as a co-sponsor, but I do echo the same sentiments is that, just to start out, maybe we can hire a consultant just to see how this goes, opposed to just say $100,000 and we don't have a fiscal impact on the synopsis or the fiscal impact. But I think it's a good thing, and I would like to be added as a co-sponsor. But I think that conversation, either part-time or consultant, needs to be discussed. If you want to, Councilman Johnson, you can figure that out. But just to say 100,000 and it wasn't, because the budget has been passed and we're talking about amending it. Maybe as a pilot, we could do a part-time or just a consultant. It's up to you, but however it goes, I will support the legislation.
Okay. Actually, I do have something to add. So because this is we propose that this is going to be a full-time position, well, it'll be a position. When you state consultant, it'll just be in a consultant basis until we get to the next fiscal year, correct? It is not, you want to make certain that we do have funds in the budget for fiscal year 2026, but the consultant portion will be from January 1 until at least July 1. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, Chairwoman, I believe that is how it works. Again, Ms. Bass Knight can let me know if we run afoul of any OMB laws, but I believe that's the way we can do it. Again, just to bridge us to July 1st.
All right. I have another question, Councilman Spadola.
Just a thought that I had, and perhaps it might be considering worth, after it gets out of committee, amending it. But I think there might be something to say to doing a cost-sharing agreement with the county where we had Kaylin Richards also as the head of the Wilmington Police Accountability Board. I think there'd be a lot of synergies there, not to overuse that word, but I think it's something to consider. You know, she's already got she's got it up and running with Newcastle County. I'm sure she'd be helpful and with us as well. So, however, if we need to amend the legislation to do that, I think we should.
I think you need to talk to Caitlin.
Yeah, I know I'm roping her into it. It's just a thought.
I gotta say,
All right.
Madam Chair, now I was going to say the same thing. But I think someone accidentally said 2021, that would be budget 2026. And
Well, yeah,
as I stated, I would like to be a co-sponsor. Thank you.
okay. All right, that's been noted. All right, did anyone else have any questions about the ordinance? All right. Is there anyone on public comment towards the ordinance? Nothing? Okay. All right. So now, because it is an ordinance, we do need to vote it out of committee. We do have, hold up, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Because it's an ordinance, we do have to vote it out of committee. There is a hand raised? Okay. Before we move it, can I, who's the person? Are they on virtual? On public? Okay. All right. If you can please introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you, Council Chair.
Okay.
My name is Christina Kelly. I just wanted to thank the bill sponsors for giving that clarification. Like I said, there were just some things that I was seeing that didn't mesh directly, but hearing the clarifications makes sense. And I really want to thank, Councilmember Johnson and especially Councilwoman Darby for making this progress.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Kelly. All right, so if there's no other hands raised, if I can get a motion to move ordinance 24-063 to the full floor.
Motion moved.
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. Okay, so this will be, when will we see this on our, before the full council?
December the 5th.
December 5th? Okay, thank you, Marshall. All right, so this ordinance has been moved and seconded. It will pass to the full council pass the council for a full vote on December 5th. All right, so thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. I did have something else on the agenda, but I think we'll be holding that ordinance. Is that correct?
Yes, Chairwoman. Well, I will be holding ordinance 24064 regarding smoking and marijuana. I will be holding that
Okay,
for further work on it.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so next on the agenda, we have a resolution to approve the police department's grant application. The United States Department of Justice, Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program to support the city's cold case investigator and violence reduction overtime costs. Hi, Chief.
Good evening, Madam Chair,
Good evening.
Council President, committee members. Yes, this is a resolution that we apply for each year. We receive funding annually to support our department and our city. In this case, we are eligible for $194,348 in grant funding, which would support the two projects, which is a salary coverage for a civilian cold case investigator, which is approximately $53,740. This position is currently filled, and our cold case unit is operating at full capacity, which is 2 cold case civilian investigators as well as a Wilmington police detective. The overtime costs related to the violent crime reduction efforts, which is approximately $140,608, which would be left, and that's specific to cover overtime and supplement our patrols in areas of the city that we know we've had an increase in violent crime, and there's no matching funds required for this grant.
Okay. All right, thank you, Chief. I didn't know whether or not anyone else had any questions. I did have one. For this particular grant, you mentioned both the cold case and also the overtime. Is this amount similar to what we had last year? Is it, or any higher, lower, or is it very?
Yes,
much the
we
same?
brought in the second cold case investigator recently. She's already in place, and it's part of the SACI grant as well. You know, she covers all the DNA stuff and supports the other investigator and the detective.
Okay. Were there any other questions? Did you have a question? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. My question was, how long has it been since the other cold case investigator has came in?
The other officer, I don't have that at the top of my head, but it's he's been in there probably, I'd say, about 2 years, 2.5
Right,
years.
okay. I thought you meant something different. Okay.
All right, is there any other question? All right. Do we have anyone from the public that have anything to question or comment about this resolution?
Yes, Madam Chair, one last
All right.
question.
Councilman Oliver.
Thank you. Chief, can you tell us how many cold cases have been solved since you have been the chief of police?
I would say approximately about maybe 12 to 15 since January of 2023.
Thank you. I know 2 of them personally. I mean, I know about 5 of them, but 2 personally, and you've met them because I've been in meetings with you, and I just appreciate you really taking the time because no one else was looking into these cold cases until you came on as chief of police. So kudos to you and the cold case department, which you have done. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, as I stated, there's no one in the public and no other my colleagues have questions. All right, this is a resolution. It does not need to be voted out of committee. Will we be seeing this on the December 5th? Okay, so we will be seeing this and voting on it in front of the full council on December 5th. So we can go ahead and go right to the next resolution, Chief.
Yes,
Which
Madam Chair,
would
thank
be-
you.
Yeah.
This grant application, we've submitted through the congressionally directed spending program. The Senator Chris Coons' office is supporting this application. We applied for $400,000 in funding, which would be used to replace our department's emergency response and rescue vehicle. This vehicle is used during responses to highly dangerous incidents like those involving armed subjects, barricaded situations, active shooters, and facilitates the safe rescue of members of the public as well as first responders from life-threatening situations. The current vehicle that we have now, it's about 20 years old, and it spends more time down than up because of maintenance. And there are no matching funds for this grant as well.
All right, thank you. The only question I did have was just how old it was, and I see you put it on here. Thank you for making certain you added that.
That's
Okay.
it's pretty
All
old.
right. Did anyone else have questions about this resolution? It's 20 years old. It's 20 years old as a year. All right, so if there aren't any questions from either council? Oh, okay. It looks like we have a question or a comment from the public. If you please state your name.
Yes, my name's Christina Kelly. Just brief question. What is the maintenance cost or savings in purchasing the new vehicle? The annual maintenance costs, sorry.
Yeah, that is maintained through the fleet services, through our city contract. I don't have that number exactly in front of me, so I can't give you a definite answer.
Okay.
It's definitely something I can get back to, Madam
Okay.
Chair, if you like.
Thank you. I was just about to ask that. All right, so if there aren't any other questions from the public? All right, and my colleagues? All right. Okay, so this is another resolution. It is not required to be voted from the committee. We will have this voted upon on the full floor on December 5th before all of council. All right. So did you have anything else to make us aware of, Chief, before
No,
you
ma'am.
put us in the?
Have a
Okay.
good Thanksgiving, everyone.
All right. Well, same to you. Will I be seeing you in December? Will this be, so this will be it, and we will see you in 2025?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
all
Yes.
right. I said, well, thank you very much for bringing this information to us. I said, you can enjoy your evening. Oh, we did have one piece of information I wanted to share before everyone left. All right, so this was supposed to be at the very front of the agenda. I asked some questions. This is the updates about the city's ambulance service agreement. All right, so these are questions that I asked for administration to provide. Wanted to make certain is that we had an understanding of what was coming and what we would be in store for when we have the new administration. So the question is, what is the amount of time remaining before the new administration needs to make a decision on the structure of ambulance services going forward? And the answer was the city settled on a $3.8 million contract extension with Trinity Health that will provide ambulance transport through December 31st, 2025, halfway through fiscal year 2026. The cost of the contract extension for fiscal year 2025 is $1.9 million. The contract extension provides the time for the city to plan for future alternatives if necessary. The next question I asked was how much was spent thus far on the agreement? In fiscal year 2024, the amount that was paid was $1,459,835. This was $291,967 per month for the 5 months of January through May of 2024. Thus far, in fiscal year 2025, as of November 12th, 2024, only $109,737 has been paid because of a reconciliation of revenue collection credits that lowered the payment for June, which took place in July, and completely wiped out any monthly payments due for August, September, and October. We expect November to go back to the normal monthly bill of $291,967 with the next quarterly reconciliation of revenue collection credits to occur January 2025. Don't worry, my colleagues, I will be making certain that you all receive this information as well. And the last question is, what is the anticipated future expenditure until the transition can be made? And the answer is, if a trend is projected based on the better revenue collection seen thus far because of the outsourcing of St. Francis of its billing and collections to a third-party contractor, it seems that the likely average net monthly billing amount will drop to about $175,000 per month or $2.1 million per year. We believe this could drop even lower as the third-party contractor gains more experience and if the allowed Medicare and Medicaid reimbursements increase. So that information was given to us by the Deputy Chief of Staff, John Rago, and we just wanted to make certain that public safety had a little bit more information going forward into the next administration, things that we know will be on our back when we get there. So we just wanted. All right, I just want to know if you had a question. Okay, so
I
we
wanted to make a statement.
Okay, so I will be making certain I share this with the rest of council, and we will make certain we keep an eye on these things. And this is definitely something that is going to be brought before us when it's time to start looking at the budget. Yes,
Madam
Council.
Chair, I wanted to thank you for this information, for you to bring and present this to the public, because it was a question not as in-depth at the Civic Association meeting, but this also allows people to, our constituents to see the major decisions we have to make. So I'm glad you brought this tonight. Thank you so much. Good job, well done.
Okay, not a problem. I just wanted to make certain that we all have it, and we're all ready for what 2025 will bring. All right, I don't have anything else. I didn't know whether or not any of my colleagues had anything to share. If not, anyone from the public, I think we are done. All right, then you will all enjoy a great evening. Happy Thanksgiving to all of the people who are viewing us on the, what is this, Channel 22 or the internet. I said, have a great evening, Woman.